My name is Britany Maddox. I wrote this paper when I was in 11th grade about my Oma, which is German for grandmother. And the reason I chose to do this was because I believed that she needed this just as much as I needed to hear this and other people did. My essay is called My Oma Story. Elsa Arndt-Payne lived in the place of her birth, Leipzig, Romania, for 6 years before her world was turned upside down. When she thinks about her early childhood years, she smiles. Born on September 29, 1933, she was the fifth child and only girl born to Juliana Vega and Otto Arndt. For a while, she had an idyllic life. She laughed, she played just like any other child. On Sundays, our parents would give us a lei, which is like a penny. She said, we would go and buy candy and carry it home in our handkerchiefs. Life was as it was supposed to be, but I was too young to know anything that was happening around the world. Leipzig, also known as Bessarabia in Romania, had been established in the 1800s by a group of Lutherans, including Elsa's great-great-grandparents. During this time, many Lutheran German colonies were established in Romania. There was so much land that people could leave the German borders and freely take a place of their own, without any conflict. But eventually trouble came. Just after World War II began in 1939, the family was notified that they would have to leave Romania and go to Germany. They found out that the German leader Adolf Hitler had struck a deal with the Russian leader Joseph Stalin. Russia got the land and Germany got the people. It took 2 months of traveling by boat and train for Elsa and her family to reach Leipzig, Germany, where Elsa's great-great-grandparents came from. It was where Leipzig, Romania got its name from. The family lived in the barracks of the town for 2 years before they were determined healthy enough. So I'm going to repeat that. It took about 2 months of traveling by boat and train for Elsa and her family to reach Leipzig, Germany, where Elsa's great-great-grandparents had come from. It was where Leipzig, Romania got its name from. The family lived in the barracks of the town for 2 years before they were determined healthy enough to enter German territory. During that time, Elsa and her brothers, Otto and Helmut, had to attend Hitler's youth group. Her youngest brother, Arnold, was not old enough. You had no choice, Elsa said. You just went and did as Hitler said. I missed going to one of Hitler's youth group one time. We just laid in the shade of a tree instead of going, and my dad almost went to jail over that one. So you went. While the family stayed in the barracks of Leipzig during 1940 to 1942, they frequently woke in the middle of the night to the sound of air raid sirens. We had to run to a bunker and crawl into a hole, Elsa remembered. You see, the war was still going strong, and my daddy had to pack not just 1, but 2 or 3 kids to the bunker. One night he left me behind. I didn't know I was fast asleep. He came later and got me. After many sleepless nights, the Arndts learned that they were moving again. The German government had decided to locate them to Lobfelde, Poland. In Poland, Elsa and her family were placed on a farm. The Polish family who owned the farm were forced to work for them. It was an uncomfortable arrangement that neither party appreciated. Elsa said that the Poles were treated like animals, according to Hitler's rules. You couldn't even eat in the same room as them. Her family didn't agree with this edict, nor did they follow it. But when they heard someone at the gate or the dogs barking, the Poles would grab their plates, and run into the other room. We got along because we treated them like people, Elsa said. Both families were always on edge, though. If someone had found out how well the Polish family was treated, it would have meant trouble for them all. During the Arndt's year on the Polish farm, Hitler took all the men from Lobfelde and the surrounding area to fight in the war. Elsa's father, who served previously in the Romanian army, and her older brother Otto, who was only 17, were forced to go. Nobody liked Hitler, Elsa said. He was just an idiot, really. That's what I think. There are stronger words people have used, but I will stick with idiot. With the 2 men gone, Juliana was left alone to raise the remaining 4 children. Elsa, who was now 10, had to help her mom with Irvin, who was born the year they arrived in Poland. I became a mother at an early age, she said. After Hitler had taken Elsa's father and brother in 1943, the war reached Poland. Every German in Lobfelde had to pack up and make a run for it. They were in no man's land. All around them were Poles who wanted their homes back and were sometimes willing to fight for them. Even worse, the Russians were coming. Hitler had broken an agreement with Russia that said neither of them would attack the other. After Germany attacked Russia, Russia came down with a vengeance on anyone thought to be German or German sympathizer. All those who were caught in the middle had to run for their lives. They grabbed whatever they could, mostly bedding and a few clothes to stay warm. For 5 days, Elsa and the rest of the Germans ran frozen and hungry. Trying to escape the Russians was difficult. Hitler had taken the Army's 2 best horses and replaced them with wormy ones. They were so sick that they could not be placed with the others in the stall, which were not suited for pulling a wagon. It was dead of winter while they were on the run, and the ground was covered in ice. Elsa's family sought shelter in schools and sometimes just slept in the snow-covered wagons. Her brother Helmut would beg for hay for the horses, while Elsa watched Irvin, but all their hard work was in vain. The Russians caught up with them 60 miles west of Berlin. Elsa, her family, and all the other Germans who fled Poland were loaded into trucks and driven to the train station. Fortunately, the Arns never boarded the train. It was full, so the Russians left them there in a small town somewhere in East Germany. Some were not as fortunate. Families were divided, and those who boarded the train were sent to death camps. They were not seen again. Meanwhile, Elsa's father had come home from the war to an empty house. He did not know where his family had gone. Otto asked around until he found where they were, set out with another man who was in the same situation to join them. But there was a problem. If they would have been caught in their uniforms, they would have been shot to death. Elsa said. Otto and the other man stole some clothes off a clothesline, pretended to be coming in from working in the fields. He and the other men, who already collected their families, got together and rented some boxcars to get everyone back to Germany. They had no desire to wait around for the Russians to come back for another train. Otto, Elsa's brother, was not among the men who made it home. He supposedly died. No one knew quite for sure, but Elsa said that it was a safe assumption. He walked into a building. A bomb fell. He never came out. Otto was only 17. During the train ride to the West German border, the men and their families were stopped by Russian soldiers. They were just drunken, Elsa said. Somebody held a gun to my father's head because he hit a woman they wanted to rape. This guy was drunk, and another guy came and talked him out of it. That's why we had to get out of the Russian zone and get to the western zone of Germany, to escape the war and get to a better place. Another time when they were stopped, the Russians locked them in the boxcar, and they had to scream for help until someone let them out. To survive during this time, Elsa and her family ate strudel, also known as the poor man's food, and bread and potatoes. Sometimes they would even have to steal rutabagas and sugar beets, which was cow feed. With the war and the fighting and the killing, then you even steal from the cows. They were also given a ration of horse meat. Juliana didn't think the rest of the family saw, but Elsa remembered her mother scooping handfuls of worms off the meat so they could eat it. Her family kept trying to get to West Germany. War had ravaged the eastern side, and at any time they could have been sent to death camps. During the train ride from Brandenburg to Dellingsdorf, they stopped at various towns and stayed in people's homes. One such time, while they were staying with a lady and her 2 daughters, there was a knock on the door. The Russians had come looking for the 3 women. Elsa's father knew enough Russian to scare them away. After this episode, the lady wanted the Arms to stay, but the family had to keep moving. They had to get to the west side. After the war, those who were not able to escape to West Germany and were stuck on the Russian side faced discrimination, harsh rules. There was no way to escape it. You danced to the Russian tune, Elsa said. Elsa said her uncle was one who was trapped on the Russian side. She remembered her father receiving letters from his brother and how they were filled with the hard times her uncle faced. When the Arns finally made it across the western border of Germany, they lived in a little town near Hamburg for about 7 years. During this time, Elsa finished her schooling, which went up to the 8th grade. She then attended trade school for 1.5 years, where she learned to be a factory seamstress. Elsa was on the assembly line and sewed everything from pants to leather jackets. Elsa's brother Helmut never finished school because he was too old and there was not enough room for him. As an alternative, he chose to work for a farmer and help the family. Neither Elsa nor Helmut really got a full education. They had to be ready to get up and leave at any moment during 1944 and 1945 to escape the war. Elsa described those years in West Germany as too many people in too small a space, when everyone is trying to run to a better place. She described it later as hell, where everyone is scared out of their sorts. Around 1951, Otto heard that the Lutheran Church was sponsoring immigrants to America. To sponsor Elsa and her family, the church had to have a home and jobs for them. The family in turn had to pay for the train ride from New York to Wenatchee, Washington, and also had to participate in a short English class. They loaded their belongings up on the USS Taylor, an old naval battleship, and headed to the United States in March of 1952. The German government paid for the family's passage because there was so much overcrowding. Not one person was lost on that voyage. Today, Elsa Arndt is married to Dan Payne and has 3 children and 4 grandchildren, including me. I love it here. It's paradise, Elsa said. You have everything. You have your freedom and no one tells you what you can and cannot do. Elsa still vividly remembers the war, and her experiences have given her strong opinions about what is going on in the world today. With the war in Iraq, I'd sooner have it over there than here. I get a little bit disgusted with these people who bellyache about war. They do not want it in their backyard, believe me. I think all of our young men who are doing the fighting understand. They don't want their children to see what is going on. Nobody does. I had to see it when I was awfully young. The bullets flying around, the houses bombed, and then we had to go pick up the dead soldiers. All these people who complain here, they need to go see it for themselves. It's a mess. My Oma's story is a sad one, but one filled with hope. Today we do not realize how truly blessed we are to live with such peace in our country, and sometimes we neglect this freedom we have. Her story means a lot to me. It has helped me better understand my own history and where I come from, and it has shown me what things are worth fighting for, what we should fight against, and that ultimately there is always hope. Ik liebe dich, Oma. Thank you.